and his husband's car, all the machine work on the engine done by Valley Head Service. The Y block in my 57 Ford has been built by Valley Head Service. I think it's one smooth running Y block. So we not only have them as a sponsor, but it's because we recommend them. We're not bashful about that. They are definitely the place to go worldwide for antique engines, current engines. They do the machine work. Everything is done in-house. They've got a clean room. We were over there the other day with a friend, and the things they've got, they were fixing a Lamborghini engine. The guy had thrown a rod out the side where it shouldn't have been. I couldn't tell, and they had fixed the block. These guys do amazing work, not only on the cylinder heads, but on the complete engines themselves. And they've rebuilt, like I said, 2 engines for me, both Y blocks. One because my son installed the first one, and one because we checked it out the second time.
Well, Larry Ofria is an engineering genius.
He is.
And he actually worked with Carroll Shelby and Smokey Unix, so
Yeah.
he is a wealth of information. He's one of the old school go-to
Definitely.
guys. And if you're into drag racing or any kind of racing or even street cars, he even does motorcycles.
Yeah, and if you want to turn your Chevrolet V8 engine into a 4-valve, monster-breathing V8 that is race-proven, Larry actually manufactures his own cylinder heads and designed a 4-valve head for the Chevrolet V8. Give him a call at Valley Head Service. Check out some of the services he can provide. It's all done in-house. I mean, even the valve covers on my car came from Valley Head Service.
And you know what? I think they'll be at Nitro Revival.
I'm pretty sure he will with the 57 Chevrolet. Plus, he's got a couple of hot rods. He's not just a guy that does machine work for a living. He's a hot rodder and has been for decades. And I owe Cindy an apology. It's Nitro Revival.
Right.
And speaking of Nitro Revival, the man that's responsible for all the cackling worldwide, Steve Gibbs.
Hi, Steve. Hi.
Hey, how you doing?
We love you. Love your show. We'll all be there.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of folks are making plans. If everybody shows up that says they're going to be there, it could get quite interesting.
I've reserved earphones.
Yeah,
I've reserved earplugs. We're going to be ready to go.
And we're going to be. I'm going to get there about 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. I'll see you Friday night for setup.
You
too.
are a glutton.
I am.
6 a.m. Who gets up that early?
We'll be there.
Gets up there. You're up before that.
Well,
So,
Monday
Steve,
through Friday. Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about the history and what Nitro Revival is for those people that may not know.
Well, I guess it's kind of a museum in motion. We really, relish the history of drag racing and try to, take folks back to the way it used to be in terms of the kind of cars that we feature. The cackle cars are really, I guess, our main event, which are basically restored, replicated cars from, we'll call it the golden era of drag racing, which would have been primarily the 1960s and 70s, the front-engine dragsters and the early funny cars that used to look like cars. We really try to capture that with the cackle cars. These cars don't race. They're basically built to start the engines and get people to the sights and smells and sounds of those cars in that era. But we're also going to have some exhibition runs out at the Irwindale track, which is an 8-mile track. We can't really flex the muscles of some of these cars that they would run at places like Bakersfield and stuff. But we are going to, the guys are going to go out, do some good burnouts and good launches and give us a taste of the nitro racing as it is today in the nostalgia categories. But it's also a social event in that we've got over 40 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame members that are going to be in attendance, signing autographs. I mean, the Don Perdomes, the Ed McCulloughs, Kelly Browns, Carl Olsons, Gary Becks. Just the list goes on and on. Tom Hoover from Minnesota. And so it's going to be a combination of things, but if you have any appreciation for the history of drag racing, I think you're going to enjoy what we have to offer.
And it's going to be a great day. The gates will open at 7 a.m. for spectators to come on in. Cars will start coming in on Friday night, and it's going to be an interesting evening, too, because there's a lot planned for that as well. But as you said, some of the guys that made the history, the people are going to be there. And Randy and I will be talking to some of them. We'll be doing some live broadcasts out of the booth there, as well as you've got a lot of just runs down the 8th mile. I understand there's going to be a couple of wheel-standing gassers coming out. Paul Solis is going to be one of them with his high and mighty car. It's going to be a great day of nostalgia cars. It's going to be a big car show and a moving car show, as everyone, a lot of cars signed up just to go down the 8th mile, just to run.
Well, it's the who's who of nostalgia drag racing. Just to go get the autographs is worth it.
Yeah, but it's not just the nostalgia racing. It is the guys who made the history that you've been recognizing for a long time, Steve.
Well, it's true. And it's interesting, when you're at the Irwindale track as it is today, if you look just to the east of the 605 freeway, and you'll see a bunch of power lines, that's the location of the original San Gabriel drag strip, which is where I first worked at a drag strip back in 1961. So it's a homecoming for me. I mean, that's the location of that track right there that nobody would know that just driving up and down the freeway, but that's the site of the original San Gabriel track. There's been a lot of racing in the San Gabriel Valley between there's actually 2 San Gabriel tracks and the original Irwindale Raceway, which I managed back in the 60s. So there's a lot of history from that era, and we're going to honor some of the guys that really did the bulk of their racing in the San Gabriel Valley. Guys like Gary Reed, Gary Southern, motorcycle rider Joe Smith. Those guys were heroes in that area, in that time frame, and we're going to pay special attention to the history of the San Gabriel racing and try to point out what these guys did. They're really groundbreaking racers. They're pioneers in a lot of ways, and made it possible for the guys that are racing today to do what they do. They did the groundwork.
Now, you started out that you've been in drag racing involved one way, shape, or form for close to over 40 years.
Well, over 50 years.
Over 50,
yeah.
Okay.
Which just means I've gotten to be an old man doing this. But yeah, my first job at San Gabriel, the original San Gabriel track, was in 1961, painting numbers on cars, writing stories for the publications, writing radio ads. One thing led to another, and eventually went to work for NHRA and put in 48 years with them on tour. So, yeah, it's well over, it's 60 years that basically I've been doing this, and it's been quite a ride. Been really interesting to see the sport evolve, cross paths with a lot of great people, and a lot of great memories.
All right, so we're going to see some great guys, Perdome, Ivo, Ed the Ace McCullough, as you talked about a few of the other people that are going to be there. Ed Iskandarian, I know, is always going to show up. He shows up to anything in the area there.
Mm-hmm. He's incredible. Another guy with a great history, and is not too much younger than Ed, is Gene Winfield. Gene is, just a legendary custom car builder, racer. Gene's coming down. He's actually going to race down the racetrack with his little car.
Got that old
He's just on the shy side of 90, and he mentioned Larry Ofria. Larry is actually one of our sponsors with Valley Head Service. The great folks out there, and Larry will be there. And I mean, the list goes on and on and on of people. Paula Murphy, I mean, one of the first gals that really made a mark in the sport, driving funny car and rocket cars and land speed cars. She'll be there.
Miss STP.
Spend the rest of the night. Wheel standers, the Hemi Underglass, the one that you saw with Jay Leno that rolled over or when he on that TV show.
I've got the tail light in my trunk.
So he's gonna be there. Mike Mantell now owns the car, making some exhibition runs. So exhibition runs, fun runs, grudge racing. It's gonna be a 3-ring circus, and we're getting pretty excited. The phone's been ringing off the hook today of all these guys that forgot to enter and wanting to know, can I get in? Can I get in? And we're going to try to take care of you. We're trying to make this a fun thing for everybody, treat everybody with some respect, and have a good time.
I think this is going to be the biggest event ever at Irwindale Drag Strip, and I can tell by the people that have contacted me, the people that are still contacting you and Cindy, and you guys have put together one heck of an event, and we're all looking forward to it this Saturday at Irwindale. Gates open 7 a.m., and you're not securing the track till 7 p.m., so we're going to get a lot of nitro in the air throughout the day.
Well, I hope we have, the weather looks good. I mean, we're really happy about that. The folks were talking about some rain earlier, but it looks like that's going to get out of here on Thursday. It looks like it's going to be a nice day, mid-70s, should be comfortable. If everything works in our favor, we'll be grinning and talking about doing it again next year. But this is our third effort with the Nitro Revival thing, and we were lucky to get back into Irwindale. It was our original thought was to come to Irwindale, but at one point we thought the track was going to go away. And luckily, Tim Huddleston and his staff at Irwindale have rekindled the fire out there, and they're working with us to keep this thing going. So, we're asking for your support. I think we're going to get it, and we're getting excited.
All right.
I don't think you're going to have any parking.
No.
It's going to be like Moon Ice Summer. It's going to be crazy there.
Why do you think I'm getting there at 6 a.m.?
Yeah, Stormy drove all the way to Temecula with his brother today to Rod Hines to get a can of nitro.
Well, we're going to burn some nitro, and so there'll be a big green cloud, I suppose.
Get gas masks too.
We're gonna at the end of the day, we're gonna have a mass fire up, and there should be probably about 40 to 50 of these tackle guys all lined up out there in all shapes and sizes with fuel dollards, funny cars, dragsters, and it's always exciting. And then the whole nitro, the cackle phenomena is really kind of a new, it's not new now. It's been about 20 years, but it just brought these guys back to life, the cars and the people that once raced them. Many guys were on the couch. They were done. They were out of the sport. And this kind of give them a chance to get back in and play with the toys that were a big part of their life at one time.
And you started this. You're the guy that started the Cackle Fests.
Well, yes. The way it worked out was, the California Hot Rod Reunion. I was deeply involved in it, getting it started back in 1992. And a few of the guys kept their old cars. People like Art Chrisman, the Speed Sport guys that had hung onto their old cars. They didn't really, some of them got rid of them because they were just in the way in the shop. But it turned out in the year 2000 that we were able to get 8 cars that had been restored, and these cars used to push start. That was just the routine way of starting the engines, and it was a really exciting part of the sport. There was a lot of anticipation when those cars would come down the fire-up road, and the guy would hit that mag switch, and the cars would come to life. I mean, there was something special about it, and they had done away with that because the cars got so long and so hard to maneuver, it became just unworkable. So that went away about 30 years earlier. And so Greg Sharp, who was the curator at the NHRA Museum, and I got talking one day and says, what if we could push start these cars? And we did. We had 8 cars at 2000. It wasn't even on the schedule. It was unannounced. And it just it touched a sensitive nerve. I mean, there were old guys there that hadn't seen that, literally shedding tears, saying, man, I forgot what that was like. And the next year there was probably 20 cars and on up. And one year we fired 58 cars on the Cackle Fest that night. And it's over the time period I've kept track, and there's been almost 250 different cars that have push started at various events around the country from that original 8, which is pretty incredible. I mean, that shows the interest and getting guys back involved in the sport, and it's the history. I mean, you're seeing cars that had faded from the scene that have been either restored, replicated. Like I say, it's in a way a museum out there, and you still got the guys. You're going to have Tommy Ivo there driving his Buick-powered dragster that first made a big mark in the late 1950s, won the first March meet at Bakersfield. We didn't call it that, but the top gas eliminator was Tommy Ivo in his single-engine Buick dragster. Tommy Ivo will be, at Irwindale this Saturday in that same replicated car. That's kind of magical,
Yep, that's going to be great. Hey, I do appreciate you calling in, Steve. If anyone wants to check this out, you go to Facebook. It's Nitro Revival 3. they can contact Cindy Gibbs. They can contact you.